you're a kind of therapist, or you have the power to be a therapist. I don't mean just about the medical condition of the body, but the psychological. There's so much fear connected to this concern, also self doubt, um, insecurities, even sort of existential thoughts about your mortality. All of those things are right there in the room. So I think one way doctors deal with that is they kind of have this cold way about them. They almost like dual mode. One is like, I'm going to be friendly on the surface and cold about the brutal honesty of the biology. But I wonder if there's like a skillful middle ground, this dangerous place where you can help people deal with their psychological insecurities, concerns, fears, all those kinds of things. Is that just really tough to do?
Yeah, it's a huge part of being a doctor is dealing with the psychological aspects of whatever's going on with a patient's body. I mean, in the ER, you deal with psychiatric emergencies kind of left and right more than ever these days. And that's a huge issue, not to mention sort of drug use, alcohol related stuff. That gets into sort of psychology and the human love of intoxicants and changing the brain's chemistry. And habit, of course, we're creatures of habit, and that plays in as well. I mean, a big part of, for instance, pediatrics is reassuring parents and kind of convincing them, giving them the confidence that what's going on with their child is not serious, will go away on its own, does not need any particular intervention. But adults too, reassurance is a huge part of the game. In the ER, you see humanity at its most raw. I feel like you get this tremendous insight into people, how they live, what they worry about, what they think about, how their body works, and also how their mind works, that you almost don't see anywhere else. It's a really interesting place to work. And also, the way our society is shaped, the ER is where people go for almost everything. When they're suicidal, they come to the ER. When they're too high on drugs to walk, they come to the ER. Children who have been abused, sexually abused, physically abused, come to the ER for us to investigate. It's sort of like the all-purpose waste bin for the dregs of society, what people do to themselves and what they do to other people. You mentioned you're interested in the darkness of humanity. It made me think of the ER, where you really see what human life is like in the ER.
Okay, you tweet about, you write about, you think about the emergency room, ER. That's really fascinating. Just the little window you give to that world is fascinating. What lessons about humanity do you draw from this place where you're so near to death? There's so much chaos. There's so much variety of what's wrong, so little information, or the urgent nature of the information inflow is such that you can't really reason sort of thoroughly and deeply and collect all the data, all those kinds of things. You have to act fast, and then everybody's freaking out. Can you just speak to the human condition uh, that you get a glimpse at through the ER experience?
Yeah, I think you do see all those things. I think on one end of the spectrum, it is this very unique place where you get all these unique insights. On the other end, it can become a ho-hum workplace just like any other, which is sort of surprising. As I mentioned before, humans seem to be able to get used to almost anything. And doctors can get ho-hum used to, dying of a heart attack. Actively in labor and the baby's half out. Just ho-hum, I know what to do, going about my job, and go home and have dinner with my family and not think too much about it. That's amazing. I do try to maintain, both my fascination, as I think writers in general tend to think more about what they see, write more about what they see, maybe draw connections with what they see to other things. So I do think that writer's perspective does help me kind of maintain my fascination and my kind of more of an insightful perspective than just a ho-hum water cooler conversation. But you do see a lot, in a way, medical problems are sort of the great equalizer, right? Class, race, culture, background, the failings of the human body, the way it fails and what we can do to help in those situations is almost universal. I always like this quote from, Chekhov was a doctor and a writer, and he treated a lot of peasants very low class, and also treated a lot of aristocrats. And he wrote that they all have the same ugly bodies, basically, which I think is really right on. And, it's sort of, you can see people underneath a superficial layer of clothing. Maybe it's the most expensive clothing bought from the fanciest places, but underneath their body is still failing in the same way. And they still have the same anxieties, the same worry about mortality, the same concerns about why their poop turned green today. All these things that they bring to the table. So in a way, it is this great equalizer where people are kind of all the same in some ways.
Yeah, I feel like people sometimes, class, money, fame, power, makes you for a time forget that you're just a meat vehicle, and just as good and just as bad as the other meat vehicles all around you. In that sense, uh, there's this question sometimes raised: are some people better than others? And I usually answer no to that question because of that. Yeah, some people might be better at math, some people might be better at music, but in the end, we're just meat bags.